I need some traction.
But today we're going to talk about search engine optimization. It's going to be a little bit of what typically works, what I see a lot of people missing. So we're going to cover 5 areas of SEO that people typically miss. Hopefully you'll be able to take some of this away and use it for your websites. I'd love to hear a little bit, if you don't mind, just interacting with me for a second about the size. Maybe you could give me some context on the size. Anybody that's in a business with, let's just go by number of employees, less than 50 employees? Okay. And more than 50 employees? Okay. Great. And by a show of hands, what would you say, how many people by a show of hands could attach revenue or a lot or a majority of the revenue of the company to people finding you in search? How many people, SEO is a big deal for new customer generation? Okay. People in marketing departments, I'm guessing that's probably everybody. How about some of the titles? Do you mind telling me what role that you serve in your company? Talk about doubling traffic to your website. So this works on anybody that's, let's say, under 50,000 visitors per month. I have a little bit of a background in search engine optimization. About 10 years ago, I was working in like web design, a little bit of web development, and started figuring out that nobody cared about your website unless they were visiting it. So I started a couple of companies. The last one exited to Yellow Pages. It was really exciting. They were both SEO companies. The point is, I've run a lot of marketing campaigns, about 1,000. I live in San Francisco and run an agency there now, specifically on SEO. So here's what we're going to talk about. These are the 5 things that I see most people missing inside of their SEO. I'll try and skim over those. I'd love sort of to hear what kind of challenges you face. It doesn't need specifically to be in SEO. It could be in content marketing. It could be in just working with a blog. It could be anything, typically growth marketing. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the value of SEO. I'm hoping everybody understands that when people sort of sit and search in Google, they still sort of wear this anonymity cloak, and it's a big deal. So the top 3, 4 listings, not the paid listings, the organic listings, are still pretty valuable, all right? So we're going to get into some tools that I use quite a bit today, and I'd love to hear some specific examples of this. So this is the road to doubling traffic in 3 months. It's a pretty tall claim, but if you specifically focus on this, we've seen a lot of success with it. The first thing that you need to do is baseline your rankings and traffic. How many people sort of know by a show of hands where they're ranked in Google for specific keywords? How many people are watching their search rankings? Okay, that's good. Good to know. Okay, so if we're going to double our rankings or double our traffic, we need to know specifically where we're ranked. The thing that I use to do this, and there's a couple of different tools that you can use to baseline your rankings. I'll just take you through how to do that a little bit here at the beginning, just to make sure all of our bases are covered. I like SEMrush. I'm going to talk about this a little bit today, so I use it quite a bit. I'm not affiliated with them, but they're good for what I need them to do. With this t-shirt company, it's just for the sake of the point, called Real Thread. Okay? If we're going to double our traffic or double our rankings or double anything, first thing we need to do is baseline the rankings. All right? So what I use to do that is SEMrush. You just come in here, put the domain in. I know that there's a lot of tools that give you your rankings. But what you want to do specifically is go in, put in your domain, look at the positions. These guys are ranked for over 9,000 keywords. It's a little bit more intricate than this, and we could have a whole sort of workshop about keyword research and what to focus on and all of that. But I'll just say that this massive list of over 9,000 keywords is not what we want to download and just stick on a spreadsheet somewhere. A bunch of those don't have anything to do with what these people actually want to rank for. And we're going to talk about what the right types of keywords are. But just to sort of brush over it, the best way to set a baseline with these keywords that this website is ranked for is to download this sheet and then work from like a Google Doc spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet And what you want to do is take off all of the keywords that are completely irrelevant to the business. All right? Let's talk about keywords for a minute. There is a sort of a method or a funnel that people go through when they search for something on the internet. The story that I typically use is my mom. My parents live in Florida. I was at their house a couple of months ago, and she's sitting down at the computer typing for a contractor. She wanted to add a room onto her house, right? So she sits down at Google, and I'm sitting next to her, and she types contractor, and all of the search results come up, and it's nothing close to what she wanted, right? And realizes it very quickly, and then goes back and types residential home contractor, right? And then the search results come up. It's still not what she's looking for, so she comes back and types in residential home contractor, Florida, Daytona Beach, Florida, right? Finally, she gets it. It's a good representation of sort of how people search for stuff. The top of that funnel would be informational or research, contractor, you know. The second part of that funnel might be a little bit more research, maybe some price shopping. But as you get to the bottom of that funnel, it becomes more and more keywords like buy software or whatever the case is. These types of keywords we consider as transactional. If you have no idea where to start in SEO, start with those keywords. So take that big list of keywords that you've got from Moz or SEMrush or whatever it is. If you're at a company that's already online, ranking for stuff, download it, and then if you want any of these sort of templates that I use, just come and see me afterwards. I'm happy to email them to you. This is typically what I use as a good template for organizing keyword research on a spreadsheet. The key point here is to organize them into groups, right? Everything with this t-shirt company is hang tags or hand tags. And then down here, swing tag templates. And then as it goes down, it's just got the different types of keywords, okay? Put them all into a group because they all relate to a specific page, okay? And keep in mind that we're looking specifically for transactional type of keywords. Now, once you feel like you've got a good list of keywords arranged that matter to you, that people might buy something or take the action that you want them to take on your website, save this, obviously, and now you've got the baseline for your rankings. So if you've got the baseline for your rankings, you've got the date, you've got the right keywords, now you can truly start to ask yourself, what did we do in 30 days? What did we do in 60 days? What did we do in 90 days? So I'll take you down this road to doubling your traffic. This first one was the starting line. The other point of the starting line is the traffic in Google Analytics. I'm guessing everybody probably has seen this, so I won't go over it. But somehow get those rankings for the good keywords down, find out where you stand, and then this is what we're going to check again at the end of the 90 days, okay? I call them hacks. Here's sort of the top 5 things that I see people missing over and over and over again. Hopefully this will help some of you. The first one is you're not following Google's mantra, and it's hurting your traffic. Anybody want to take a stab at it? Who knows what Google's mantra is? David, what do you think? No? No idea? What do you think? What? Don't be evil? I don't know if that's their official mantra. That's not really the one I'm going for here. It's a good one, though.
To be authentic?
To be authentic is a good one. Yes?
Interesting content.
Interesting content, another good one.
Relevant.
Relevant, be relevant. Wow, lots of good stuff. So the one that I'm talking about here is Traction Conference. Let's just go into Google and look. So let's imagine that I typed for something relevant to your business, right? Still, in Google search results, after I don't know how many years, 15 years, they still show a lot has changed about their search results sort of user interface, right? Since they first started. The logo's changed. Those links at the top have sort of changed. Settings and tools. You used to not be able to log in over there in the top right. But one thing has sort of really remained the same largely, and it's this about 13.3 million results in just over half a second. They stick it right at the top. Google cares so much about showing you how fast they are because they think that that is their major value proposition, at least in their search product. We're going to show you the most relevant results in the quickest amount of time. So much so that they still leave it on this page right where everybody can see it. It's obviously a big deal to them. I don't think it's their official mantra, but what I'm talking about is speed. Speed is such a massive thing. And over again, if somebody comes in my sales funnel as an agency that needs to help them with SEO, there's a couple of things that I do immediately when I hear what the website is. The first one is I go and check their site speed. How many people are checking their site speed of their website? Okay, so some, not all. So I'm going to just take a few minutes and get into how to do this. For those of you that are already checking it, I'd love to hear sort of what some of the things are that you've seen. So there's a couple of different ways that you can check site speed. The one that I like to use is if you just Google for Google site speed. Google actually has a quick check that you can find at like developers.google.com. You can find it if you just search Google site speed. And they go over all of you just put your domain in and it gives you a score, something out of 100. In this case, I'm still using this Real Thread company, this t-shirt company, just for the sake of the point. This one is scored 74 out of 100. In many cases, some of this stuff that's happening on this website that's slowing it down could be affecting their search rankings. Let's think about it like this. Everybody knows probably who you're competing with in the search results, right? You're always seeing that guy that's ranking above you or ranking below you or next to you, or that for whatever reason Google thinks they should rank higher than you. It's a little weird, but you've probably looked at their website quite a bit. Well, imagine if you're Google or if you're the Google bot that analyzes all of this stuff and you've got, let's say, 20 different websites in the SaaS space, in this specific SaaS space. Let's say it's Salesforce's SaaS space, right? They've got all of these websites, and each website has hundreds or thousands of pages on it. They're old domains. There's a lot of blogs pointing to them, a lot of really cool stuff. If you've got 20 websites that are almost neck and neck with all of these types of website stats, which one do you think they would give precedence to? One that ranked or one that loaded faster? Of course. So if you've got some of these problems, and I think it was something like 75% of the people I checked in my sales funnel, which is like 20, 30 companies, went and looked at their site speed. About 75% of them really needed work. All right, so I'm going to sort of show you how to improve some of these things. And it will take a little bit of liaisoning with the developer or somebody on your team that's a webmaster that might help. But what you start to see is when you look at it, and if you've got access to the internet, put yours in. It's Google site speed. Let's see what your site speed is. This one is 74 out of 100. 100 is really sort of this pie in the sky thing that's not ever going to happen. What you want to try and shoot for is at least 80 or above. And what you'll see if you look for these over and over and over again on your website, let's say once a month, or other websites that are around yours, you'll see some of the same things kind of pop up. This Real Thread website needs to, I don't know, maybe work on their redirection of their main website from the HTTP to the HTTPS. It looks like they have some opportunities to leverage browser caching. Some of the, they're using Optimizely. Excuse me. Some of the, I guess that Facebook Connect thing might be something that needs to be, I don't know if it's possible to even cache that, but whatever the case is, all of these things need to go down and sort of be optimized. In many cases, they're things like minifying the CES, which you can see, or minifying some images. Okay, so here's sort of where we see the site speed falling into stuff that matters. Okay, so we want to try and get to 80%, and these are some of the issues or some of the wins that we see over and over again with people and their site speed. All right. Happy to share the deck. If you guys feel like you want to look at it again, let me know. Yes, sir.
I'm just happy that you mentioned that, like the 100% is kind of pie in the sky thing.
Yeah.
I've had sites where like they're 98, and usually that's like a white page with text. So with
exactly.
And stuff, you know, you're really not shooting there. And another thing too is from a development standpoint, I want to strangle like founders and SEOs.
Don't strangle us, please.
Because they'll come to you with tools that are really outdated. And on the tech side, you're moving to like HTTP2, where if you use the wrong tool, the suggestions they make could be really outdated for you. Like combining CSS might be a terrible idea in an HTTP2 world. So really definitely talk to your techs, because they'll tell you when one of those things is good or BS. And sometimes these things are full of BS.
Yeah, like if it's a JavaScript that you can't do anything about and it's slowing down the page and it's giving you a low score and you've optimized everything else, then that's okay. You know, it's not the end of the world. It's not like Google looks at it and says, oh, there's a JavaScript on your website and you know, we're going to rank you low because of that. The idea is to sort of optimize as much as you possibly can. And again, you will need a tech partner in this one. But you can see how some websites, Facebook scores 49. I don't think they care about SEO too much, but you get the point. The 100% is almost impossible to ever score. So these are some of the areas that you can sort of see that could cause a problem or that you could excel at when we look at the percentages of site speed. So site speed is hack number one. This is a massive way that you can improve your rankings. If you go into your website, check the site speed, and it's low. If it's 40 or 50 or 60, there's a lot of area of opportunity there to improve that. And in many cases, you'll improve all of that stuff, and you might see the rankings go up. Now, this is also not sort of a one-time fix kind of thing. Some of it might be image optimization, and all you need to do is install a plugin in the right plugin in WordPress if you've got a small website that sort of can optimize images easily. Some of them you might be looking at possibly moving a bunch of the images to a CDN. Some of them might be big decisions. So you definitely want to consult with somebody that has a developer background and understands how to optimize all of this. But again, it might take 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts. And this might be an effort that takes a month, maybe 2 months. It really just depends on what those issues are. Did anybody look up their site speed? Does anybody want to share it? Anybody proud of their site speed? I'll take that as a no. Yeah? What was yours?
Ours is 77 on desktop and 67 on mobile.
Okay. What were the reasons? Or the main sort of?
The optimization.
Yeah.
Leverage browser caching.
Yep.
Eliminate render blocking JavaScript and CSS and above the fold content.
Yeah. There was an update that came out with Google a couple of years ago where they really put a lot of focus on above the fold. Above the fold being this bottom part down here, you know, without scrolling, or this bottom part. So if there's anything that sort of stops, most pages will load in just like we read them, top to bottom, right? So the different sections of the website will load that part that says page speed, then this little field right here, and then these graphics, and then the graphic in the phone, and it will load, you know, from top to bottom. But sometimes if you've got a JavaScript or a button or something like that that's right in the middle of the page, unless your website is coded in an asynchronous fashion, it will actually wait for that to get done loading before it loads anything below it. And for some reason, Google doesn't like that. Google wants you to have your website coded in an asynchronous fashion, which is basically like if you're at a restaurant and you order a appetizer and a main course and a dessert and tell the waiter, just bring me whatever comes first. I don't care about the coursing, just bring me whatever comes out first. This is sort of the way that you want to think about serving the content on your pages. Like if the JavaScript in the middle of the page is loading slower than all of the HTML under it, then why are we waiting for the HTML to load? What do we care? Just give it to the user. Their mantra is so user-focused that this is a big deal. And oftentimes, you'll see that in sort of some of these errors, or not errors, but some of these areas of opportunity, possible optimizations. They'll say that your website is eliminate render blocking JavaScript and CSS above the fold content. You need to make sure that the website is coded in an asynchronous fashion. Okay? Any questions about site speed? Such a wonderful topic. I love it. Okay, no more technical stuff, but it's such a weird one that a lot of people miss, so I wanted to make sure to include it. Hack number 2 is Google's secret communication portal that they reward you for using. The verbiage here is a little bit of a stretch. There's no phone number that you can call, which is weird because if you're an SEO or an agency or something like that, a lot of people actually ask you, can you just call Google and, or write to them, change stuff? And you can't really do that. They're this, huge, massive, nobody can help kind of thing. The only reason that you can get on the phone with Google, which is interesting, is if you spend enough money with their AdWords product, and then they'll have someone call you and probably show you how to spend more money with their AdWords product, or their AdSense. Hack number 2 is Google's secret communication portal they reward you for using. This specifically is the area where inside of Google Search Console, they will actually tell you if something wrong is going on your website. All right, so the project here, or the tool here that we're going to talk about for a little bit is Google Search Console. It used to be named Google Webmaster Tools. How many people know about this tool by a show of hands? Okay, I'm sort of finding out as I go if this is relevant, but your feedback sort of lets me go over it quickly or not so quickly. It's one thing to have it installed. It's kind of like Google Analytics. You install the code on your website, and bam, it shows up, right? But this is the area where if you ever get penalized, or if you ever sort of need to reclaim your domain, or if there's any errors on your website or any of that stuff, this is the place where Google tells you. All right? So the first thing I'd like for everybody to do, if you have access to it, is go into it and check the messages. The messages are sort of this area where Google says, hey, you're not doing the redirects right on your website. Or in some cases, this is where you check for a penalty. For a search penalty, this is kind of the area that I always go back to. Every time I open up Search Console, I go to the messages just to see, am I penalized? Is there anything weird going on? Because this is the only area that they'll tell you. All right? Anybody willing to admit, by a show of hands, that they've lost rankings recently or are struggling in the rankings recently with Google? Okay. There's a lot of other areas inside of Search Console that help optimize the website. And I want to go over those today. But this is sort of the secret communication portal that not a lot of people are using. So here's where it is. The areas that are great to optimize inside of Search Console are these: site links, data highlighter, sitemap, and the errors. And the most popular one, and the one that you probably are familiar with, are errors. This is sort of where you can go and find out, is there any redirect errors? There's all sorts of errors that happen on a website. Obviously, you want to make sure that all of those get fixed and you're on top of them. But there are some other areas where you can optimize and try and give yourself more real estate on the page, for example. Everybody is probably familiar with how this looks when you search for something, in this case, this conference. And it's got speakers and register in Vancouver. And I get this question all the time. How do we make that happen for our website? And there's really no sort of way that you can tell Google, please show, look at it. It's taken up half the page. And granted, we did search for the brand. But sometimes these are called site links. Sometimes those site links come up when you're searching for Growth Conference Vancouver or something that's not specifically related to the brand. And these are the times that they really matter, right? Because in that case, he's taken up half of the page. There's no way that you can tell Google specifically what of these internal pages to put up. But there is a way that you can tell Google which pages that you don't want them to show. So if you've got a connection to the internet, I'd love for you to go and search for your brand in Google. Don't type it in the Omni box up here, but search for your brand or a keyword that brings up these site links. And just take a look. It's a good idea to sort of take a look and see if these links are appropriate pages that you want people to actually see. Find out if they would make a decision or if it would push them in the right direction to convert on your website. And what you'll find is that some of them are probably right, like speakers or agenda or register. This one's probably the best one, right? But sometimes, and you might see it in your own, you'll see web pages that really don't matter to the customer or the user that's searching for it. So if you look under your brand and you see site links that are like, I don't know, About Us, maybe the About Us doesn't care, or maybe the people don't care about the About Us, or maybe the sign-in page is showing up, you can actually go inside of Google Search Console and show Google what you can put in links that show them which pages you don't want them to show up and demote those pages. And with that, you can kind of craft and manipulate which sort of pages show up inside of the site links. This is another great way to try and increase conversions on your website. It's a small one, but it's important. The other ones would be, yeah, obviously constantly check for errors. Yes, ma'am.
The demote, I tried to demote exactly the problem you just discussed, but it keeps on coming back.
Does it?
Yeah, and it also ignores the demote.
That doesn't sound good. Unfortunately, there's no one you can call at Google to do anything about it. Have you've done it over and over again?
It's the logo.
Hmm.
And the
I wonder.
logo keeps on coming up, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah. I wonder if there's a way you could put or display the logo in a different way so that it's not on its own URL or some sort of technical solution.
Correct. We tried that. Didn't work.
Let's talk afterwards. There's got to be a way that, I mean, the logo should not be coming up. If they keep ignoring it, then I'm sure there's a workaround. This is SEO in general. It's just hustling and finding another way that you can work around it. Like, it's obviously finding it because it's on a URL, you know? So how do we get it off of that? Or maybe de-index that page with the only thing on the page is the logo, right? So maybe we could put robot.txt on it and tell Google, don't even read this page. Forget about this page. Maybe that would stop. And then do it again, and then maybe that would stop it. It's just sort of, you're like a plumber. It's just sort of check the sections until you find the leak, and then try and fix it. That's it. So that's the take up more real estate one. Faster loading with Schema. This is an interesting one. How many folks know what Schema is or are using it? Okay, so a couple of years ago, maybe not a couple, 5 or 6, Google, Yahoo, and Bing got together and said, hey, we need to start recognizing a universal coding format that people can use to display information on their website that all 3 of the major search engines will recognize and show. Okay, and this has to do a lot with snippets. You know how when you search for something like an airline ticket and they just show you the result without going to the page? This is a really cool way to sort of convert traffic or get your data in there. There's a couple of ways that you can use Schema. The universal coding format is called Schema, S-C-H-E-M-A. You can be really geeky, go to schema.org, look at all of the different schemas that there are for stuff. But in an effort to try and get people to use this coding format easier, Google has created Data Highlighter, what they call, it's a tool called Data Highlighter. And it is inside of Search Console. So it's right here. And basically what Data Highlighter is a tool that actually shows Google what items on your website should be coded with Schema. If you've got a regular corporate website and there's a blog, then it's probably the blog. If you've got a website with recipes or movie times or products or anything like that, then there's a Schema code that you should be using on it. All right? Instead of having to learn all the technical stuff, you can go into Search Console and click Start Highlighting, and you can see it's giving examples right here. Sorry if the entire room can't see this stuff, but like reviews or there's a bunch of them. There's hundreds and hundreds of different appropriate times to use Schema. Again, if it's a corporate blog or a corporate website, the blog is probably the most important. Now, what you do is you just take one of your blog pages, put the URL in here, choose that it's an article that you want to highlight, right? And then tag this page and others like it. And when you click OK, I'm not going to do it right now because this is an actual client that's already done it, so it's not appropriate here. But when you do it, the next page, it'll ask you actually highlight the title, highlight the date, highlight the author, highlight the image, and then it'll ask you to do it again for a series of, let's say, 5 or 6 pages. And what you're doing is just showing Googlebot how to recognize something that gets published on your website like that in the future that matches all of those criteria. All right? And then they'll have Schema on it. And what you'll see is if you start making this a habit and go through your entire website and use the data highlighter, some of those results might start showing up with the star review rating if it's a review. Or some of the blogs might start showing up when someone types in a question into Google. Have you ever typed in a question to Google and it's like showing the actual answer and then shows you where the answer is coming from? This is the way that through Google's magic algorithm, if they think yours is the best, they'll actually show it if you're using the data highlighter and if you're using Schema. So this is a good one. And only a couple of people raised their hands, so maybe that was helpful. OK. I think that's it for this one. Encourage Google to index. Yeah, that's a really good one. The way that you encourage Google to index is by producing more content. I know it sounds sort of cliche, but think about it. If you're the Google bot, you've got this entire web to go and crawl over. When should I go back to xyz.com or whatever your website is? If Googlebot scans your website and they see, oh, there's no new content on it in the last month, they'll probably put a flag, come back to it in another month, and scan it again. And if you're adding things to your website or adding products or adding pages or anything like that, they might not see it again. So the way that you can encourage Google to come back and index your website in as soon of a space as possible is to just produce new content, put up new pages. That obviously dovetails into a content strategy or a blog strategy, but that is truly how you can get Google to come back to your website. If every time they come back there's something new, then that flag for them to commercial stuff in SEO. Because it's changed so much, and we won't get into all of that. But how many people sort of know who their biggest competitor? I'm sure everybody. I guess you don't have to raise your hand. Think about your biggest competitor in the space, the guy that's always ranking above you. Is anybody in the e-commerce industry here? OK, cool. Software? Software as a service? OK, I thought so, maybe. OK, great. So I didn't want to talk about e-commerce because it's really tricky in this case, and they have competitors like Amazon and stuff like that. But get that competitor in your head that's not the Amazon in your space. This is a little bit too big of a competitor. Stealing traffic from them is going to take years, right? Get the competitor that seems to always think of the competitor that seems to always outrank you by 3 or 4 positions, or the one that has more pages, or that sort of 2 or 3 levels above you. You got them in your head? Think of these guys, and these are the ones that we really want to focus on. 75% of the people that search for a keyword in Google click on the top 3 listings. The only way to get traffic to come to your website that's usually going to theirs is to outrank them. And the only way to outrank them is to have a better website than them. And I know that's very general, but it does go beyond sort of we have more pages and our pages are prettier and we have more resources on our website. There's only 2 areas that Google can use to sort of grade whether they should rank you at the top. And what's Google's idea? To provide the quickest ranking and the most relevant rankings, right? So if your website is about, let's say, Superman, you need to have a better website than the Wikipedia page if you want to outrank them. And it doesn't just mean bigger or more content and more pictures of Clark Kent, right? It might mean videos and diving off into smaller areas of pieces of content. So let's talk about those 2 ways. If there's only 2 ways that you can show Google that you should rank me at the top, those ways would be what's on your website. You can control, this one's fun because you can control what's on your website, right? You can control how many words are on it and all of that stuff. And then the other part to that half is how many people are talking about your website. And this is where things like brand mentions, backlinks, social media, and all of that stuff comes into play. And this is also where things get extremely difficult and confusing because they're different topics. They're really different channels, right? So if we're going to steal the traffic from our competitors, we've got to find a way to have other websites, more other websites talking about us through a brand mention, either mentioning us or linking to us or any of that stuff. And this particular part of SEO has gone through really radical sort of changes where Google got tired of indexing and scanning all of the content that's not valuable at all that people used to just put up and link back to their website and sort of trick the system. The only way that tends to work now is through traditional efforts where things like PR teams go out and get good, solid media about you. And then the SEO makes sure that the link is included in there. Or there's actual reviews of your website, or your product, or something. Or your leadership gets quoted in some sort of piece. And to get that kind of stuff, you actually have to go and look for it. Yeah, it will come to you after you reach a certain level of success, and you may be in an organization where the leadership does get quoted, or where they are asked to contribute to Forbes or something that's really high-level media. But if you're not at that point yet, or if you want to push that envelope, I'm going to show you how to do it. Remember the competitor that we were thinking of. All right, so if you've got them inside of your head, what you want to do is get a tool like SEMrush, and we're going to start looking for everywhere that has mentioned them, or that has linked to them, or that has reviewed them, or that has put them in the media. And the reason that you're going to do that is because it might be a good opportunity for you to hand to your PR team and say, hey, go and talk to this journalist. They just published about this or this similar topic. All right? So you've got your competitor that's doing better than you. I recommend using SEMrush for this. There's other tools that do it, but Threadbird, in this case, for the sake of the example, is one of the competitors of that t-shirt company that I was using as an example. Just go over here to Backlinks, and this spreadsheet will actually show you everywhere that's linked from the web or mentions them on a page and links back to their website. Now, this list, depending on how big your competitor is, might be a really big pain in the ass list, but there's probably value in it. And what you want to do is make something like this on a spreadsheet. You want to download it and sort of take on the bottom here, if you can't see it, I've got a couple of different companies, and I've got all of their backlink, we call it a portfolio, their backlink portfolio, downloaded and on different tabs. And what I'm doing is taking this entire backlink portfolio and looking at each, or having someone click through to the link, finding out if it's something legitimate. Is it a piece of media? Is it a review? Is it an authorship piece? Just find out what it is, and taking off everything that looks like nothing. So there'll be stuff that's just a page with nothing on it. Take all of the stuff that looks irrelevant off. What you're only looking for is good, solid, either piece of media, review, a post, or something like that, that you might be able to reach out to that website, or to that journalist, or to that editor, or hand to your PR team and ask them to try and develop a relationship. Yes, ma'am?
I use MarketWire for my press releases.
Yeah.
Our press releases automatically get picked up by publications that are totally relevant to our industry, with like local star magazines and whatever it is.
Yeah.
But from an SEO standpoint, are those valuable? Like not from a, it's going to get us the right kind of traffic to our website, but from a SEO
Backlink, yeah.
It is valuable?
It's a good question. I'll try and answer it here. So she's saying she uses MarketWire, for those of you that couldn't hear her, to do her press releases. You guys write press releases, pay MarketWire to then release it all over the place. And they do, I'm very familiar with MarketWire, release it at all of these publications. Some of them look really great, and you could probably show it off on your website. Some of them are like the Dallas Star, or whatever it is.
They just cut and paste it like it's from
Yeah, it's syndicated content.
real stories.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different layers to this. The first question is, do all of those pieces of content that are out there matter? And second, a sort of more advanced question is, they keep posting that same exact piece of content all over the place. Is Google penalizing me because it's the same piece of content? The answer to the second part is no. You don't really get penalized because of duplicate content on that type of duplicate content, because Google sort of knows that this is a syndicated press release. And if that were the case, it would be really easy for your competitors to be like, oh, let's publish an article with our competitor's link in it and spread it all over the place and just get them demoted out of the rankings. So Google understands that people with that type of strategy might do what we call negative SEO. So they don't penalize you just for having the same exact piece of content out there if they're all at news sites. If you put up on your website the same exact page of content like 10 times, you would see your rankings go down, because they know, oh, this is not good. The first part of your question is, do all of these links or mentions from all of these websites matter? And the answer is partially. So it's good for a couple of things. It's good because you can show that your product was sort of released all over the place, or your press release was released all over the place. To really find out if every single one of those locations matter, you would actually have to go in and analyze their reputation, their SEO sort of reputation. There's a metrics called domain authority by Moz that's kind of taken the place of an old school metrics called page score by Google. It doesn't matter. There is a metrics that you could go and look at every single one of them to find out, is this a really valuable link? In general, though, they're not. MarketWatch and PR Newswire and companies like that aren't putting press releases on websites that are going to do any damage. No. It's helpful on like the top tier sites that they go on. So I would say, like if it gets put in Google News or Yahoo News, the top 5 that they're really proud of, that they probably show on the homepage of their website to pitch you to buy from them, those are the valuable ones. But other than that, no, they're not valuable. And in addition to, not for SEO. And in addition to that, there's a metrics in Google that says one link from another website equals 100 links from another website, right? So it's the one link that matters. It's not the 100 link that matters. So if they're publishing at that same list every time, you already got the SEO value that you were going to get the first time you did it with them. I mean, if that were the case, think about it like this. If that were the case, I could go and build 100 other websites, or I could build one website and just keep linking every day in a new post to the same website if that meant that there was more value. So it can't mean that there's more value. 100 links from Amazon doesn't matter. It's the same value as the guy who has one link or the guy who has 100. But that's just for SEO. If you feel like there's value for PR or for anybody in your customer base, that's a totally different story, and I certainly don't want to talk negatively about them. But they're not claiming they're an SEO company. They're a PR company. So there's different ways that you can sort of structure for the advanced people that are sort of in the room, and this is something that you should take with a grain of salt as a guide. There's different ways to structure your backlink portfolio. So if you're really deep into, I'm getting new backlinks, I'm getting press, I'm getting reviews, I'm maybe partnering with influencers and telling them review my product on your YouTube channel, or a million other things, or maybe partnerships, or maybe your company is buying smaller companies and you can get some backlinks through the new domain, or whatever the case is. There's certain ways that you should structure that backlink portfolio. And this is sort of a good roadmap for how you should link from other websites into your website. The thing to remember is to make it organic. If you remember when Facebook just started coming out, try and think of the way that you first heard about Facebook. Was it from a friend? Was it on a website? Did somebody type in on a blog comment, on a page? How was it? How did you sort of hear about Facebook? It's probably difficult to really remember, right? Because you probably heard about it from some random place. It may have been mentioned on the web somewhere. And if you can think about all of those when Facebook was really just becoming popular and more popular and more popular, the digital footprint that every time somebody said the Facebook or Facebook.com or www.facebook.com or all of these different versions, there's probably 100 different ways that people called it and wrote it to their friends online, either in a chat or on a website or on a forum or on a blog. This is sort of the way that you want to think about how people talk about your website. You don't need everybody to say the name of your product and the brand every time somebody mentions it. You want to have this sort of organic brand mention, so it could be a bunch of different ways. The naked URL, it could be the name of your product, not the name of your company. It could be just in the middle of a sentence somewhere like this. And you want to make sure that everything that touches your website sort of gives a holistic approach to how the content is written. So if this is a piece of media and it links to your website, great. But if this is a piece of media, second, or a piece of press, like you're talking about, why not put the link instead one time, instead of to your website, put it to another piece of media. You really want to try and build like this organic structure of If you imagine your money website is in the middle, and then there's a bunch of backlinks going to your website. They shouldn't all be just directly pointed at the same page with the same phrase and doing it the same way. So this is a good guide to use. It's infographics, it's a feature, it's a publication. Again, this could probably be a workshop of its own to sort of talking about how to get press and how to get backlinks. And again, they should be from different neighborhoods of the web. They should not be all hosted on the same server. And this is Google's way of keeping SEOs from just going and buying a bunch of websites, hosting them all on the same server, and just driving backlinks to the same thing. So that's why the bottom of this says the hack is in the source of the TLD, the top-level domain, where the link is coming from. It should be a very diverse sort of neighborhood. And all of this is possible to look at with SEMrush or Moz or any of those. All in, I'm not going to get into it today, but all of these things. Is it time up?
No, we still have half an hour.
OK, that's good. Can you guys hang on for 20 minutes or so? Or do we got to go now? OK, because we're on hack number 3. So we've got a couple of more, and then I'll sort of take questions. Not sort of take questions. I really will take questions. Hack number 4, a rising keyword tide raises all ships. So the roadmap for keywords is already there. OK, so we talked a little bit about keywords, but one of the things that I see people miss constantly, and it's pretty cool because the solution is pretty easy, is sort of what to write about. What do I write about in my blog? What do I talk about in my new press release? We have a relationship with our PR department where it does one new one per month, and we don't have that many products coming out. So there's always an opportunity to sort of gather ideas. Well, the best way that you can do that is through what I'm about to show you here. Now, if you've got your keywords and you're focused on these target keywords, let's take tag printing. Excuse me. Brand tagged. If you've got them sort of organized by groups, it's really important to organize your keywords by groups. All of these keywords point to this page, /tag printing. Makes sense, right? So what I mean when I say a rising keyword tide raises all ships is if you go and do a press release or content or blogs about this one keyword, tag printing, you're probably going to mention swing tag printing, t-shirt tag printing, cloth tag printing at some point in that content or that series of content. So if you focus on topics as a group, the keywords, and write content and worry about acquiring those backlinks, you'll start seeing rankings improve for a lot of different variations of that same word. All right, so this is the parent, what we sort of call the parent keyword, and these are child keywords, the longer tail keywords, stuff like that. Use this as a resource for coming up with what content works. But there's a cool thing about Search Console. Inside of Search Console, there's this section on the left side under Search Traffic and Search Analytics. That's really interesting. It gives you sort of some insight on what are quick wins for your content team through SEO. So what I typically do is select all of the boxes at the top because they're interesting, clicks, impressions, CTR, and position. And then what you'll see at the top, if you've got a website that sort of gets some traffic, what you'll see at the top is probably the most traffic, or the most trafficked keywords that you show up for are, not the most trafficked, but the most relevant keywords that you show up for are the brand. All right, so we're not interested in that. The brand of this t-shirt company is called Real Thread. Of course they rank for their t-shirt company, or their brand. If you're not ranking for your brand, there's a big problem. We should really talk, but you probably are. We're not looking for that. What we're looking for here are specific topic ideas that we can write about and then we'll directly drive traffic because of. Okay, so I typically sort by the impressions. Let's do lowest to highest, or maybe that's not the best idea. What I'm looking for are low impressions and super relevant terms. So if I can find, so that the number of impressions is how many times Google has listed this website when someone typed in soy inks. This is a t-shirt company, so I guess they use soy inks, or maybe they use soy inks, but it's not relevant to convert a customer, so this would be a really bad one. I think one impression, one time, it's not a good sort of metrics to follow. What I'm looking for is keywords that have, I don't know, 40 or 50 or 60 or something like that in the impression column, and that are extremely relevant. And so what this means, oh, and there's the position, by the way, over there. They're position 5.7. That's an average. That's why it's 5.7, like the 2.1 kids or 2.5 kids. So this is somewhere between position 5 and 6. So it's top to bottom. The first page of Google has 10 listings on it, right? The first one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is listed in position 5.7. It's been shown 39 times when someone typed in glow-in-the-dark inks. Now I know, because I've worked with this brand, that glow-in-the-dark inks are not a converting topic for them, because they only want people to buy, like in bulk, the finished t-shirt. They're not an ink manufacturer. They do have glow-in-the-dark shirts with designs on them, but in this case it's not relevant, right? So look for stuff that's relevant. They do have a pretty big section of their website that gives a bunch of different t-shirt templates. In this case, these guys actually let people design their own thing from a bunch of templates. So this is a phenomenal opportunity. They've only been shown 39 times in search, which is basically nothing. They're showing at an average position of 7.1. That's at the bottom of the first page. And I bet they only have this listed on their website on one page. So what would happen if we put a serious, like, 1,000-word blog about it? They would rank, or they would rank higher than 7.1. So go down, download this list. If it's not too arduous, if it depends on how much traffic you've got, take out everything that's not irrelevant or that you're already getting shown a bunch for. This is not what we're looking for. We're looking for, like, golden nugget, like easy pickings. Look for low impressions and super high relevance. And you can see, look how many times these people clicked. Not many. You can actually build from this list a really good sort of order of priority on things to put into your content strategy. And that's with any PR that you might be doing. That's with your blog content. Did you have a question in the back by the water cooler?
What was that page again?
So he's asking what that page was. So this is inside of Search Console.
Okay.
And this is under Search Traffic and then Search Analytics. I bet you guys can't really see anything back there, huh? All right. And then select all of the metrics because they're interesting to look at. Position, clicks, keywords. Okay? Any questions about this? Yes, sir?
Does it matter, or do you get any insight into like how many people are searching that term, or does that matter at all?
Great question. Yeah, it matters. You know, if there's hardly any people searching for it and you have a limited budget, maybe it's not the right decision. So it doesn't show it right here, but if you take this list and then put it in one of the SEO tools that are really popular, you can get the search volume. SEMrush does it, Moz does it. So yeah, it's a good sort of pro tip. Like if you really don't want to waste time blogging about stuff that might not have a lot of search impression or search volume, then take this list of the ones that you think are a good idea, go find out what the search volume is, and then go from there. Ideally, you're looking for stuff that you're ranked on the bottom of the first page for or in the second page. So that's positions, the bottom of the first page is position 5 through 10, and the second page is position 11 through 21. Anything that's in that category, like this one, 12.8, whatever that is, some sort of screen printing, if that's valuable to them, that would be worth putting out a series of blogs or mentioning in the next press release or maybe doing it a couple of times because they're ranked 12th. They're on the second page. No one is clicking on it, hardly. 2 people. This is terrible. The stuff that's on the second page that you're ranking for is much easier to get on the first page than the stuff that's like you're not ranking anywhere or you just thought of this new idea. Yes, ma'am?
What's the cost of SEMrush?
I think they have different plans from like $50 to a couple $100 a month.
It's 100 Canadian.
I should really develop a partnership with these guys somehow. I know them. They're great. They're really cool, right? We do stuff together, but not making any money. Anyways, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. They're cool. They're a giant in the industry. At the SEO company that I had that was so big a couple of years ago, at the end, before I sold it, we had a couple hundred employees, and we must have had 150 SEMrush licenses. And it was interesting because before, we're really like hackers, I don't care, you know, before they used to have it so that unlimited amount of sessions could be logged into at the same time. So we only had one license, and then they stopped it, and we had to buy like over 100 licenses. It was terrible. I wonder if they stopped it because of us or if we were not the only people doing this kind of thing. Anyways, that's it. That was the last part. This slide is just getting into a little bit of detail about what I was just talking about. There's a lot of like really detailed advanced stuff that we could talk about that I'm not sure is quite appropriate, but if you've got questions, I'm happy to talk about them. The anchor text that you actually have as the word, the phrase that's linking to your website really matters. The consistency of those links sort of matter. Like if you go and do a huge press effort in like a week and you go and get hundreds and hundreds of links, Google's actually that's going to affect you in a negative way rather than a positive way. Like if you do too much all at one time, they're sort of like, yeah, I see you not being organic over there. So it really needs to be sort of ramped up slowly in sort of this methodical, organic way. You really have to make sure that those pages that are linked to you are being indexed. What if those pages aren't being indexed? So if you really want to be on top of it and make sure you're getting some of this stuff can be really expensive. A PR team is expensive. Getting published in Forbes or any of these like large publications can be costly. The cost that's involved in everything that goes into that. So if you really want to protect it and look out for your backlink portfolio, you want to make sure that everything is being indexed, that site has a good reputation, and we know how to, or an SEO should know how to do stuff like that for you. And then hack number 5 is scaling the unscalable. If you've ever worked in SEO or if you've sort of touched it or your department's responsible for it, you understand that it's pretty difficult to kind of get this momentum going in the right direction. Do we got to hire a writer for $3,000 a month? Should I hire somebody just for the backlinks? What do I do? And in some cases, it's totally appropriate to give it to one person or 2 people and let them handle it. It's typically not something that if you've got a bunch of other things that you're responsible for, that you can also do it and then it matters. There are cases where if your website is getting a bunch of traffic and it keeps growing, that you might be able to step in on a part-time basis and just sort of instruct the strategy, like invest in learning a little bit about it yourself. So it really depends. But these scaling processes and making it bigger and bigger involve just thinking about it like it's an assembly line. Okay, so putting the necessary components in place, buying SEMrush or Moz, making sure that you've got all of your keywords baselined. If you've got a PR agency, you might be able to sort of infuse some link building in them and ask them to be responsible for getting the backlinks in place. But you want to treat it like everything else. You need processes in place. You need specific goals. How much more traffic are we getting for the website each month through organic search? Not through, don't let anybody come in and be like, oh, but there's more traffic, because it might be from paid, or it might be from Facebook, or it might be from stuff that doesn't matter. It needs to be specifically from organic search. And the key here is just to use the tools that are at your disposal. There are tools out there that are really good. Obviously, you've seen a couple of my favorite ones. For enterprise level stuff, there are some much larger tools that might be better. The press people that you're using, they're all right. They're pretty good, just about like anybody else. And then I won't, yeah, and then that's pretty much it. We've got a couple of minutes before the end of the time here, and then we'll take a break. If you want the deck, you can get it here, I think. Give it a shot. And does anybody have any questions that I can help you out with? Yes, sir.
Right at the start, you talked about using SEMrush to identify keywords that you can target.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to give you, one of the challenges we have is not knowing the sort of phrases that people might be using to try and find us if they're not finding us, right? So
Yep.
what would you recommend in that case in terms of determining what keywords or phrases, if they're not actually hitting us right now?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So just to reiterate or repeat the question, he's asking, you talked a little bit about it at the beginning, putting your domain into SEMrush and looking at all of these keywords that you are ranking for. But how do we do keyword discovery? This is what we call keyword discovery. The best tool to use for sort of keyword discovery, that if you're a new website or if you want to sort of push the fringes of people that aren't hearing about you, Google Keyword Planner is the best tool for that. They're a tool for paid ads, but they will give, if you put a couple of keywords that you think, just start with your head, you think that people might be searching for, they'll give you like 10, 15, 20 different related phrases and the search volume that is being searched for them. Yeah, Keyword Planner, it's a free tool.
I wasn't sure if there was more of a magic tool like this.
The other thing that you can do, you're thinking in the right direction. The other thing that you can do is, again, it's all with like the competition. Right. Like if you know somebody that's in there, then I would spend arguably maybe more time looking at them than I would myself in SEMrush. Yeah, yeah, and we just skimmed the surface. There's like domain versus domain or competitors right here, where you can go and put your domain versus their domain, and it'll show you the common keywords that you're both ranking for, but then you can click on all rankings for their website and download it and find out if any of those would be applicable. In addition to that, click through to the pages that those keywords are ranking for, and you can look to see if you have anything that facilitates that type of ranking, you know? The biggest mistake that I see people making is like, yeah, our website should rank because I put my heart and soul into it. Now, I get that, but you know, you really need to look at what's ranking now in the top positions to find out what's going to rank, you know, for in the future. So, yes, sir.
A couple years ago, Google came out with RankBrain.
Yeah.
Machine learning. How has, in your experience, how has that affected the search results?
In a very confusing sort of way. It's made our entire industry really sort of go back to the drawing board to find out, you know, what are they looking at. So Google has over, they publicly say, I believe it's over 250 things that signal, you know, ranking. And we covered, what, like 5 today? So there's a bunch of stuff involved. I think overall what RankBrain has sort of done, it's the automatic algorithm that's sort of taking context more into account. Like some of the SEOs in the industry did. I mentioned that Superman thing earlier because it's a real example in our industry. There's some people that, after all of this RankBrain stuff have come out, the go-to thing to do for folks like me is let's go test it and like push it to see if it drops us in rankings or brings us up, right? So some guys went out and built like a website about Superman, but never said Superman on it. They said Clark Kent. They said, you know, all of these different things, great content, the whole thing. And it ended up ranking pretty good for the keyword Superman. So you can sort of see that it's all about context. It's all about, I think content length was a big one. And I know that sort of sounds like, oh, now we got to write longer content. But no one will tell you in our industry that, oh, we ranked so well from putting 300-word blog posts up, and we did so many of them, and now we're ranked at the top. So it's some work. If you've got a situation where anybody's doing webinars or video stuff, you could maybe have those transcribed. You see people like Tim Ferriss doing show notes from like a 2-hour-long podcast. Why do you think he's doing that? You know, so there's some hacks that you can make happen. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Do you have any experience with a domain name transfer? So we built up our website, you know, got where we wanted to be traffic-wise, but due to like some market conditions, and honestly we wanted to do more, our boss decided to pivot. And you know, having built this whole thing for years, like when you're dead, you're like freaking out. And we're going through the transition right now, and you know, we basically followed like Maz's webinar. We did all the bullet points, but we wanted to do it really quick. We did do it 3 months, you know, 3 months will pass and you know, there was something we forgot about. Is there anything you could kind of, you know, maybe you have some experience with that, or any things you could think about that can help the process?
It's difficult to say in this setting without seeing, you know, everything, but it sounds like you guys are on top of it. The other sort of thing from a group like you guys who are obviously well researched and are careful to try and do the right things is just sort of not taking that step because there might be a couple of other things. It's very rare that you're going to do something that will damage, the rankings or the brand in a long form way. So at some point you do have to make this decision like, okay, we looked at everything that we could look at. We have all of the redirects or whatever the case is in place. Let's just do it. And then whatever happens, let's be on top of it. Don't do it on Friday at 6 o'clock. The whole thing. Make sure that we're ready to try and make up for it if we need to change some of this stuff.
Yeah, I know at that last part of the process, we use like Webmaster and use the whatever, suggest a site move.
Yeah.
We do that like on Webmaster. We don't. Again, like who's done it, right? Like unless you've been a company that's done it, you've not really done it before.
Yeah.
So that's what I was just wondering. Like, have you seen like a company that's done like a big move and then because everyone says
yeah,
in traffic for like 20%.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're seeing that right now. I think I don't know if we're that low, but we see actually our traffic wasn't that bad. Maybe it was only like 3 or 4%. But we come back and like things like our site links aren't really quite up yet. Things like our domain authority are just.
Yeah, this I wouldn't worry so much about. You will lose some of the rankings and some of the traffic, but if it's longer than a couple of weeks, then I would start to be like, what the heck is going on? Are you taking a bunch of pages and are they all being redirected to new pages on a different website?
Yes, essentially. So the whole domain is being changed. So every single page on the old site is being redirected to the new.
And does the old website have any rankings or SEO value or traffic? Obviously, or you wouldn't be worried about it, right?
Well, no, I mean, I guess you would say it has some of its like own value somewhat, but not really. It's really like a kind of like a rename of the brand. Well, later on, we're going to grow it much further, which is why we're doing that process.
Yeah.
So
yeah. The biggest thing is to just make sure that all of these pages that are going to go away have a new place to go. If you've got like 10 pages that are all going to go to this one page, don't be surprised if some of that ranking sort of gets lost because there was 10 pages that facilitated all of those rankings. Now there's one. That's probably going to go down some, And if you want to talk later, I'm happy to look into it. Sounds like you guys are on top of it, though. Yes, sir, with the gray coat.
I'd love to see the deck, but the .send link is closed.
Okay.
Backup, or should I send an email?
Day 30, if you're doing stuff that's right, you should see some of the rankings for those longer tail keywords go up. Like that stuff's kind of easy, or it should be easy. Some of those easy ones that we looked at in Search Console, remember low impressions, very relevant, and you blog about them, that should go up. So day 30 should be, if you have a keyword list of 100 keywords, you should see, 10, 20 of the longer, easier tail ones going up. Day 60 should just be more of the same. Day 90 should be those main sort of keywords. And when I say main sort of keywords, I'm excluding keywords like consultant or software or anything like that. Just to be clear. Who else? We have a couple more minutes. Yes, ma'am.
AMP pages have
yeah.
a lot of experience in that.
Yeah. It's a new thing that Google's doing. It's really important for rankings. And again, it's anything inside of...
I'm doing it, and it's been up and down for me. So.
Yeah. She's talking about accelerated pages. This is this new thing that Google's doing where, the content is actually loading. Anyways, so... anything that you can do to show Google that you're doing what they want you to do, or you're taking advantage of their new thing, or you're using their data highlighter. I would even go as far to say as use Google's data highlighter because it's Google's instead of just putting Schema on the page. Does it matter? Probably not, but any opportunity that you've got to communicate or be an early adopter to the stuff that Google's doing specifically for SEO, I don't mean their social networks, but specifically for SEO, take advantage of it. So a lot of people will say, oh, the keywords on the page.
This impression of like a lot of snake oil out there,
There is, yeah.
So is there anything where you could say, avoid this, avoid this, avoid this? The next time that conversation comes, I could just say, no, that's just junk.
Yeah. So you want to avoid just like calling stuff junk because now you're in the argument, right? Like, I don't know if it's junk. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Doesn't. I always say stuff like, it doesn't sound like it would do anything good to me. And it's all of this common sense stuff that you probably already know. Anything that's like way off the beaten track, like let's use a private blog network and rent links from all of these guys that still use PBNs, we call them, just networks of websites that link and you can buy them and blah, blah, blah. This sounds like it's way off. It's all the stuff that you guys know. I'm not telling you anything new. I'm just drilling down into some of the stuff that I've seen. So good content, relevance, all the answers that we heard at the beginning. This is the stuff that matters. There are really good resources, though, that you can go and check to find out, is anybody else talking? It's just like in the development world. Is anybody else talking about this out there? Has anybody else done this kind of thing? So all the main sort of new SEO news sites are great resources to go back. And you legitimately can be like, look, I went to Moz. I don't see this anywhere. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd be a little concerned about it. Yes, sir?
Let's say you're like, oh, I just want to hire an agency, a person, even an expert in SEO.
Yeah.
Like, should that person be guaranteeing anything, or like, what do you look for in that person? Like, is there like, I want a result, I want to double my traffic, like you said here,
Yeah.
and they don't deliver, or like, what should you do?
So it's the same, just like with any other vendor. You can tell if they suck pretty quickly. But before you get into all of that, yeah, I mean, check their references, do all of the due diligence that you should. Look at make sure their references are existing projects that you can call. It's sort of this thing where you do have to be a little bit more diligent. Think about it like you would a PR team. Like, yeah, there's value in it. It will take a while. They shouldn't be guaranteeing you anything, but what they should be able to be perfectly comfortable doing is saying, look, let's do a short sprint. This is what I always say. Let's do like 90 days worth of something. And sure, let's talk about the traffic from organic search on your website. I feel comfortable raising it or telling you that you can pat me on the back if I raise it 5% each month, let's say, or something like that. Work at it. But it's not a guarantee. It's sort of, this is how you can see if you're really thrilled with us. If we're not even close to this goal, then we're not doing anything. And it's just like everything else. Show me what you're doing. Meet once a week. Make sure that you can sort of see what they're doing. 1 second. Yes, sir.
Further to Jonah's comment, I almost feel like if you Google best SEO agency, the top result is...
That will give you the best SEO agency. That's true. The problem with the best SEO agency is they will charge you the best SEO agency rates because they can. They're ranked #1. Yes, sir.
Us looking for SEO support, a lot of people will say that you can't really expect anything for 90 days or 120 days or whatever. So you're saying that you should be able to see
Yeah.
results after 30 days.
Absolutely. These are folks that are just trying to, and if you provide a service to a client, I wouldn't look at it as, oh, this guy's trying to get out of it. No, it's just somebody trying to set expectations, just like everybody else sets expectations. And what they're talking about is moving up in the rankings from the 5th page to the 1st page for the toughest keyword that you have. But if we're doing all the stuff we talked about in the first, let's say, month, then you should be seeing ranking improvement for this long keyword that's like 5 words long or 3 words long or something. You should be able to tell from their work reports. And if you can't communicate like this in the preceding conversations, then there's a red flag. Anybody else before we go? Yes, sir?
How do you measure attribution then?
Great question. This is one of the toughest industries to sort of do full circle stuff with. And it really comes, and this is one of the big things for me is I'm interviewing the folks as much as they're interviewing. I mean, I need to know how good is your analytics set up? Do you have the tag manager? Can we tell if someone actually does make a decision, on your website? I need to see the entire circle. Happy to help set it up if you don't have it. But even things like, did they get to the decision-making page, all of that stuff. Because, look, if you're waiting 90, 120 days to show results, that's money like just burning. So you really got to have it set up properly from the beginning. The other thing that you've got to have is pages that convert, right? We shouldn't even be talking about this unless your website can convert. You should go spend money on that, right? So anybody else before we go? All right, you get a couple of more minutes. Listen, I love your city. It's a really cool place. It's my first time here. I'll definitely be back. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
I need some traction. You need some traction. Let's get some traction.